As we moved from the axial age described in the previous episode, religions were evolving with strong moral standards. Men were the new controllers of religion, politics, wars, wealth, and many aspects of daily living. Women were still active participants, but being eroded was their previous power and authority. Sexuality is not only about sex. It is about how the idea of sexuality can spread into different aspects of one's life. For example, a woman from a privileged class wearing elegant clothes was considered more attractive and worthy than a beautiful woman in inadequate clothing. Everything in a young woman's life ultimately led either to marriage or commitment to the church. Female sexuality did not directly deal with what women believed as their rights. The beliefs, superstitions, and decrees of the church, the law, and men assigned women's roles to them. In the ancient world, women and children belonged to the man of the family. Sati or Suti was a historical practice found chiefly among Hindus. In some areas of India, the expectation was that a widow would sacrifice herself by sitting on her dead husband's burning funeral pyre. Adultery was considered a severe sin. Although the law forbade a husband to murder an unfaithful wife in ancient Rome, he was hardly ever punished. Usually, punishment occurred if the woman's family had powerful financial or political strength. Women who drank more than a moderate amount of wine could be divorced. In her scholarly publication, Sex in History, historian Rhea Tannehill talks about how between 400 and 1000 CE, Christian morality gained such a firm grip on Western thought that it was, I quote, so paralyzing that it is only now beginning to relax. Many of its rules about sex originated in the Hebrew law of the Old Testament. Threats of hellfire was one of the most potent deterrents ever invented. Lust and sex were associated with the original sin of Adam and Eve. Celibacy was a righteous act of virtue. Incest, masturbation, oral, anal sex, and homosexuality were all punishable by the Christian Church with severity. Sex should occur within marriage and for reproductive purposes only. Contraception was banned because it was associated with pleasure. Sex and guilt became partners. Sin was related to the act of not pleasing God or following God's mandate. Spirituality and sexuality were associated with God and the devil. In their eyes, a medieval woman was a virgin before marriage. Not love and attraction, but politics, material wealth, and social status decided who she would marry. It became permanent after consummation. In some Middle Eastern cultures, the husband would display the wedding linen with the blood of the virgin to confirm this. The church considered a woman to be more insatiable than a man. She was supposed to experience far more pleasure than men. Her lust was called the ultimate sin. They disregarded medical problems related to female sexual organs unless the woman was married. And even so, limited help was available. In all, they expected higher standards of conduct. But we only have to look at history superficially to see that although there was marked repression of sexuality, particularly amongst females, sexual activity persisted. We can look at any part of history, whether Greek, Roman, Hindu, or Chinese culture, to acknowledge that all aspects of sexual experiences still endured in the face of life and death. After all, we only need to look at the epidemic spread of syphilis in the 16th century. Men and women were not as pure as the church would have liked. But were there any practices of sexuality and spirituality outside of monotheistic religions such as Islam, Judaism, and Christianity? Yes, there was. However, these practices fall under the categorization of paganism. Basically, from a Christian point of view, paganism was anything that did not adhere to Christian standards. Today, the confusion exists as many medieval churches have decorative themes of women displaying large genitalia or faces with masks or made of leaves. Like in our previous episode on the temples of Kahurajo, some historians explained it away as warnings of the evil of lust or for divine protection. The British historian Francis Young suggests that the charge of paganism was useful in theoretical controversies. They could try individuals on sorcery and witchcraft. Kyle Harper from the University of Oklahoma talks about parts of Greco-Roman sexuality which were abhorrent. But he also identifies other elements that might be appealing to modern thinking. That Greco-Roman sexual morality celebrated the bonding power of eros within relationships that accepted its mysterious power as part of human life. Sex is a part of nature and a part of society. It is a strange and vital part of ourselves. It is not entirely in our control. But this conflicts with Christianity, which sees sex as absolutely central to our moral identity and is entirely within our control. As Francis Young states, the Christian interpretation of paganism retains popularity due to its association between pagan religion and the celebration of female sexuality. In our next episode, we will talk about the critical challenge that is facing the patriarchal system, especially in the area of sexuality.